Welcome back to our meeting.
Dr. Green, we might be in a little bit. We're not doing resolutions first, we have a hearing first. So, yeah, I might chill for a second.
Okay, do I have a motion to reconvene the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned by Mr. Ives and second by Dr. Shaw. Roll call.
Navarro,
Here.
Travis,
Here.
Lewandowski,
Here.
Ives,
Here.
Johnson, Shaw,
Here.
Lopez Caniva.
Here. So at this moment, if everyone can stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Corey Duzan, can you lead us in your pledge? This time we have a public hearing concerning proposed transfers of funds for 2022. Anyone wishing to speak during the public hearing about this proposal must sign in and provide all information requested on the public hearing sign-in sheet. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 5 minutes per speaker will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information, which will be used for any necessary board follow-up. Public comments are important to the board. However, it is customary not to respond to issues until time has been taken to gather information and discuss all options. Lack of action or response does not imply a lack of interest in the issues brought to the board. Every time a member of the public speaks during public comments, the superintendent or appropriate district administrator will contact that individual on behalf of the Board of Education the following day to discuss their concerns. And I believe there is none. There is not. Okay. All right, being that there were no comments or no discussions, I hereby close this meeting
703.
at 7:03 PM.
Can you please use the microphone, because we can't hear you?
We don't have in the room mic on this, so it's just our voices, so we'll try to talk up as
Yeah, we
much.
can't hear you, that's why.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay.
This is for the live stream, so we'll try to project. Is this good voice level?
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
Okay.
fine. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, next we have our resolutions.
Good evening, everyone. We are very excited to honor a large group of students. First off, we want to honor Nadia and Ava. You guys can come up. I think Ava, you're here. Nadia's here. Okay, come on up. Renee, you stand. This resolution recognizing the accomplishments of Lockport Township High School students, Nadia Abukadir and Ava Campobello. Whereas Lockport Township High School students, Nadia and Ava placed third in Structural Technology Level 2 at the TSA Technology Competition held on November 4th at ISU in Normal, Illinois. And whereas the students have brought honor and distinction to themselves, their families, school, and community by achieving this respected status. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted this 21st day of November, 2022.
Good job.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going, so if I can have Olivia and Logan come up. This resolution is recognizing the accomplishments of Lockport Township High School students Olivia Cachola and Logan Fields, whereas Lockport Township High School students Olivia and Logan placed second in Engineering Design Level 1 at the TSA Technology Competition held on November 4th at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. And whereas the students have brought honor and distinction to themselves, their family, school, and community by achieving this respected status. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted on the 21st day of November 2022. Congratulations, Olivia and Logan. So if I could have Evan and Tyler come on. This resolution is recognizing the accomplishments of Lockport Township High School students Evan DeGiulio and Tyler Wingate. Whereas Lockport Township High School students Evan and Tyler placed first in Transportation Technology Level 1 at the TSA Technology Competition held on November 4th at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. And whereas the students have brought honor and distinction to themselves, their family, school, and community by achieving this respected status. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted on the 21st day of November 2002. Congratulations, Evan and Tyler.
Can I please have Kyle and Krista come forward? This resolution is recognizing the accomplishments of Lockport Township High School students Kyle Brown and Krista Wojciechowicz. Whereas Lockport Township High School students Kyle Brown and Krista Wojciechowicz placed first in Transportation Technology Level 2 at the TSA Technology Day competition held on November 4th, 2022 at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. And whereas the students have brought honor and distinction to themselves, their family, school, and community by achieving this respected status. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted on this 21st day of November 2022. Congratulations.
Well, it is my distinct pleasure to call Mr. Corey Duzan up here. I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Duzan in 2 school districts and seeing just his excellence firsthand. Really an amazing professional. We're blessed to have him here with us in Lockport Township High School District 205, especially at Central Campus, where how many of these students, raise your hand if you ever had Mr. Duzan in class? Yeah, pretty amazing. Your journey to these seats might have started with Mr. Corey Duzan. We are pleased to recognize him tonight, whereas Corey Duzan has earned the prestigious title of the 2022 Project Lead the Way National Engineering Teacher of the Year, announced by press release on August 25th, 2022 by Project Lead the Way headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana. Whereas, among his many awards, Corey Duzan was named the 2009 Technology Education Association Illinois New Teacher of the Year, the 2011 Illinois Design Educators Association Teacher of the Year, the recipient of the 2013 Eastern Illinois University Distinguished Educator Award, the recipient of the 2019 Technology Education Association of Illinois Big Thinker Award, recipient of the 2020 Project Lead the Way Outstanding Teacher Award, recipient of the 2021 OnShape Educator Influence Award, the recipient of the 2022 Technology Education Association of Illinois Presidential Citation Award, and a 2-time Golden Apple Award nominee. Whereas Corey Duzan embodies on a daily basis and understanding that his success and accomplishments are part of a broader team effort in living out the slogans, best self, best work, and together we succeed. Now, therefore, be it resolved on this day, 21st day of November 2022, by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, that Corey Duzan is hereby recognized for earning the prestigious title of Project Lead the Way 2022 National Engineering Teacher. Congratulations.
My kids are coming. Thank you.
Then we have two resolutions I'll do right from my seat here. It is National Board of Education Member Month, and specifically November 15th is National Board Member Appreciation. So I hope everybody here appreciated your local Board of Education members. I always like to remind people there are many different boards in local government, state government, and municipal government. You are looking at the only people that are not paid. That's not the case in many states. It is the case in Illinois. These are purely volunteers doing the business of the people. It's so important to remember. But Illinois Association of School Boards has a recognition program as well, and we have two of our members here who are recognized this year. So, Luann Johnson. Whereas Luann Johnson, Lockport Township High School District 205 Board of Education member, was awarded the prestigious title of Distinguished Board Member by the Illinois Association of School Boards, and whereas Luann Johnson has brought honor and distinction to herself, her family, school, and community by achieving this respected status, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted on this 21st day of November 2022. Congratulations for your service. We have another distinguished IASB distinguished board leader, as Mr. Michael Lewandowski. Whereas Michael Lewandowski, Lockport Township High School District 205 Board of Education member, was awarded the prestigious title of Distinguished Board Leader by the Illinois Association of School Boards, and whereas Michael Lewandowski has brought honor and distinction to himself, his family, school, and community by achieving this respected status, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted on this 21st day of November 2022. Congratulations, Mr. Lewandowski. And we just
Thank
have
you.
to vote on those resolutions.
Yes, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, it's been motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. On behalf of the Board of Education, congratulations to you students. You have brought such honor and distinction to our high school. We are so proud of you and you know, just knowing all the accomplishments you did. I did look at one video that Dr. McBride had sent us, and it's amazing of you guys all doing the work there. Parents, also, congratulations, you know, because you've done so well. I mean, in doing everything for your student, for your child, all right? And also, Mr. Duzan, congratulations. I mean, congratulations again. All right, and to my fellow board members, Mr. Michael Lewandowski and to Ms. Luann Johnson, congratulations on this distinguished award. All right, okay, thank you.
Very nicely done. And,
Nicely done.
as we like to say, students and parents, unless you're very interested in this board agenda, there's no expectation that you have to stay. So if you need to do your homework and get on your way, you are more than welcome to do an Irish exit or just, you know, get on your way. Usually students do leave, and that is quite all right. We've got a lot of people here today. You know, maybe make a little room for them to come on in. So.
So that's Kathy Fields.
Yeah, yep, got it. You got it.
Logan and Trevor.
Yeah. And if folks in the audience want to move any place, you know, thanks so much. You know, make yourself comfortable. Could somebody get the students? Connect? Could you get the student government students? They were just waiting in the hallway.
Keeping them out. You know the big tech problem I had?
What?
The S in my password is lowercase.
Oh.
When I put it on my phone,
Yeah, I understand.
you gotta correct that. Please. As long as it stays charged, it remembers. Because I always leave this plugged in, but right here in frayed. Did you give him that shirt? Dr. Shaw? Tell him to wear that?
Good shirt.
All right, student government.
So first thing we want to talk about was the Student Government Leadership Conference that we went on last week with other schools from our conference down in Bradley Bourbonnais. I want to say it was a pretty good experience because we got to learn about other perspectives that those schools have or how they go about planning certain events, such as like homecoming events or getting involved in their community or stuff like that. So
Yeah, we learned a lot of values. They had two guest speakers there from their community, and we learned a lot about the values of leadership, especially which we learn here as student government leaders. Yes.
The next thing, we kind of just wanted to give an update on the student body and how there's kind of been a release of stress as college applications are in, and it's kind of senior year is kind of lightening up, and there's definitely a change in the air amongst the senior class.
And then finally, for our future plans, we're still planning that winter week. It's going to be something that's leading up to our Porters versus Cancer basketball game, which is happening in December this year. We're really excited about it. We're going to do a movie night at Central Campus on Tuesday, which we're excited about because, in my opinion, I personally think it's a kind of an underused. It has a lot of character there, so we're excited to, host some events there that get kids back there because a lot of them, they haven't been there since, especially the seniors, since March 13th of 2020 when we were sent home and never really came back. So it'll be pretty cool to come back there and get all the upperclassmen back there, and it'll bring up morale, like class morale before finals, and get everyone something to kind of bring up school spirit before finals week. Especially in the winter, it gets pretty dull, and you see it. So we're excited to do that. And then Thursday that week we have our gingerbread competition, or not a competition, just a chance to build a gingerbread house, hang out with your friends. We have a lot of people there. It's gonna be pretty cool. Looking forward to it.
anyone got any questions?
At your leadership conference, is there any one idea that came out that you said, wow, it's something we're not doing here, or you're not doing here at Lockport that you think would be really something that you want to put into effect?
Nothing in particular. It was just a couple of the other schools, like Bolingbrook, they had a couple of, I don't know what they call it. It was like a,
I think, yeah, at Bolingbrook, they had some sort of lip sync battle, or was it a karaoke? It was something
Another
like that.
fun event.
It was a fun event.
exactly.
And then I think we have like Interact Club here and NHS that kind of foster community service, but we hadn't thought about doing like a service project with student government, but that's something we're thinking about doing now and trying to put together to give back to our community as student government.
What movie will be shown?
Oh, that's gonna be voted on.
Yeah, not yet decided.
Preferably Polar Express.
CC's against that.
Yeah,
no
we'll see
reason.
about that one.
For no reason.
No elf? Come on now.
See, that's
I'm
what
a
I'm
fan
voting
of.
for, but
Thanks for your
see.
time and effort, though. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, AFT report, Ms. Fishline.
Not too much happening. Just wanted to take a minute and reflect on another successful parent-teacher conferences that took place at the beginning of the month. I think our staff does appreciate the online format that we continue to use and had a lot of successful connections with parents, which is always good. We're also continuing with some of our fun little things that we've done in the past. We just drew our turkey raffle winners, so, it's little things that get us through, until break. Looking forward to our holiday party next month. Again, as always, we'd like to thank administration for the continued open line of communication and great partnership that we've built. But as we move into the Thanksgiving break, just a quick thank you to you, the school board. It is a thankless job, but we notice you, so we do thank you for that. And then just to our teachers, paras, secretaries, maintenance, custodial, everybody that makes this place, work every day. We wish you a very good Thanksgiving break. So can't wait.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you. IASB report, Ms. Johnson.
Well, we all just got back from Triple I. So basically, I went to the delegate assembly, and it was interesting. Every year there's some interesting thing going on. It should have been non-controversial this year, but there was a couple of things that got a lot of discussion. So, and it's always good. I like going to the delegate assembly because it's good to hear the school that proposed the resolution, their perspective, and then everybody else's take on it. You get the comments from the other schools and the other districts, and you can see a difference between schools that are in northern Illinois versus schools from southern Illinois, you know. There's a big difference, you know, because they have different concerns and whatever. But I enjoy it. So the thing that started out that was a little weird was they did a new way of polling to see what was the quorum in the room. So they say that the count is 400. It was 400 different school districts there. But then when they got to take the first vote, it was 409. Everybody's like, how could it go from 400 to 409? You know, and they had to have the rules committee and stuff. And what happened was, you know, people were coming in and out. So, yeah. They needed to, one thing I think they realized is, at some point they needed to close the doors and have a fixed count of, you know, what was going on. So, and then there was some concerns by other people that people were there, but they didn't vote on issues. It wasn't, there were no issues, even with 400, that you got a total count of 400 people. So I do have the counts, if anybody want to know what they were on the various resolutions. They all passed, so in the end, after all the discussion. So.
Do all the school districts have to vote? If they vote, they have to be there in person? There's no, they can't submit it online or
There's no
anything like
proxy.
No, you have to be in
that? No
person.
proxy, they have to physically be there.
You have to physically be there. And they had those little clicker counters this year where you just click it.
No, okay.
So, and what they do is each school district has a piece of paper like this that says that you're a delegate from Lockport Township High School, okay? In fact, I was telling Michael, they lost ours for some reason. But they gave me a temporary one. So that pass gets you in, and then you're supposed to turn it back in when you leave. So that's my delegate duties I had at the Triple I. So that's why I was late. Coming up from lunch. So, yeah.
But yes, I also felt that just because, you know, we just got in, yesterday was yesterday, you know, finishing up with the conference, but I hope that by next month, in December, maybe all of us, we can do a little bit of summary of what we learned at this conference, you know, maybe, so that, you know, we can all do that. Yes.
But I'll tell you one thing with the networking, when you meet Lockport High School, this really shines there. I mean, they really get impressed in what the high school does, what we've been doing, so it's a proud moment to represent the school.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Even like the rural school down somewhere in, I'm trying to remember what the school was, but even down south, they heard from us. You know,
Yeah.
they were very impressed. Beforehand, many years ago, I mean, people would ask, like, where's Lockport? You know, where's Lockport? But now it's almost like, we're like, well, no.
We're on the map. Everybody knows Lockport.
That's right. That is right.
For good reason.
For good reasons. That is true. All right, thank you. All right, foundation report, Ms. Angelita.
And as Miss Adolph comes, she won't say it, but you are straight out of, you know, some surgery. And so thank you for your effort to be here.
Yeah, so I sound like I have a cold. I don't. I just had some sinus work done, so I don't recommend it. Yeah. I mean, actually, I hope to say I recommend it in like a week. So I did pass out, I'll just start with our Santa event. It's an invitation to come to Cookies and Cocoa with Santa. The foundation does this event every year. It's held at East Campus on December 4th. There's going to be a photographer, an alumni, that's going to come and do professional photos for staff members, families, friends. So you can get that Christmas card photo out of the way on December the 4th. And come in, say hi. So we just wanted to make sure that you were welcomed and knew that we would love to have you. come and participate with us. Just a real quick rundown. I was excited to be able to participate in the career week that we had in October. Just kind of excited to see what those partnerships might lead to for future endeavors with our students. We had a traveling composer that came in during career week, and I got to listen to and like kind of witness what happened during career week in our high school. And it was very interesting to hear how excited he was about the opportunities that we're offering our students in high school, that he travels the world. He came from, he lives in Argentina, but was in Germany and in Scotland, and was in Pennsylvania and was going to Wisconsin. And he was so impressed with the things that we were doing with our kids. It was really interesting. So it felt really good to get just this very outsider's perspective on some of the things that we're doing at our high school. So it was really, it was worth sharing with you guys that this gentleman who is, a world traveler, visits all kinds of schools, was really excited to see what we were doing with our kids. The foundation hosted our first ever Fine Arts Festival just last Tuesday, and in true fashion of how things happen, you all already are starting to think about ways to make it more interesting and meaningful and impactful for our students and community. So we're excited to do that again and probably add a few more twists and turns. Scholarship deadlines, scholarship applications are going to open in December for our students. The foundation for right now, we have 3 more confirmed scholarships than we did last year. I'm hopeful that we'll have another 2. So just giving more opportunities to the kids. We are going fully digital with all of our scholarship applications. We found that to be a barrier. They wouldn't go home and print it out and write it out. So they're going to be fully digital. And every other Monday, Mrs. Castillo and I meet with students in the port if they have questions, concerns. Just to be someone that sits alongside them, to let them know that someone's here to help them with their scholarship journey if they have any questions or if there's something that we can do. The guidance department is amazing at doing that, but their caseload is ginormous. And if they have just 2 or 3 questions, they can just sign up with us real quick on Compass. So I'm really excited that we're having more opportunities for our students for scholarships. And lastly, I just want to highlight ShareFest. Is coming to the school on December 11th. I don't know if anyone else put this in the report, but the foundation is going to help partner with ShareFest to offer the community event for our for people that might be in need of clothing and toys and things like that. Lockport City Hall and Crest Hill City Hall are going to have donation boxes where people can drop off warm winter clothes and things like that. Just one more way that we can bring our community and school together. That's good. Thank you.
Rest up.
All right.
Legislative report. Dr. McCord.
Well, I think anybody related to the legislators recovering from the election, so there's really not anything to report on the legislative front. There was a veto session last week, which really didn't produce much. Right now, there are more than enough House and Senate committees that are really just in the business in the lame duck session of just meeting, coming back to their committee, but nothing really on the school front. The board, at the time I wrote this in future tense, and now it's past, was at the III conference, as many of you know. We spent quite a bit of time at the AAA conference on the law, on finances, on building and facility issues. Thank you for being there. Thank you for your commitment. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of sessions, but I think so worthwhile. Just in time, board members, IASB has released Press 110. We'll start working on that in December. I knew you were very sad that you didn't have policy work. It is another large packet. What Press for people at home 110 is, the Illinois Association of School Boards takes all of the most recent legislative session, which would have been in the spring, anything applicable to school code that we have to make a revision or a change to have your policies in line with state law. We have to go through that process. We probably will chunk it as we have with Press 108 and 109. It's just so many policies that need just some modest changes. That's the legislative report.
Thank you. Moving on into public comments. At each regular open meeting, members of the public and district employees may address the school board during the public comment section of the agenda. Individuals appearing before the board are expected to respectfully follow the guidelines of Policy 2:230 and Policy 8:30, available upon sign-in. Public comments are important to the board. However, it is customary not to respond on issues until time has been taken to gather information and discuss all options. Lack of action or response does not imply lack of interest in the issues brought to the board. And first, I have Mr. Steve Ballage.
Over here?
Yes.
Yeah, just right here, Mr. Dallas.
I found out a couple of days ago that school's planning on doing a 6% tax increase. And I went to my accountant and I asked him to look at all this stuff. He said that it appears that you have more funds than are on your website, but he doesn't know for sure. He thinks that there's more money in different pockets and everything else, but I can't go there because I don't know what it is. And if it isn't true, I'm just going by what he said. But you have $56 million in reserve. That's a lot of money. And then you're going to go for a 6% increase. You know, I get it. You want to have a lot of money in your account so you could do a lot of stuff. But are you spending your money wisely? From what I know, you got ARPA money or something like that, and you got a coffee shop and you charge kids $5 a cup or whatever you charge them for coffee. You got a cell tower thing coming in now. You got all kinds of other sources of money, and yet you want to raise 6%. So I start asking myself, what can I do about it? I can come here and complain. I'm going to run people for a school board out of our organization. And besides that, simultaneously, I'm going to be investigating starting my own school district out of Homer Township. Then if we have to do it, we will. And if we remove all the Homer Township funds out of your school, you're going to have a problem. So if you guys can't learn to live within your budget, I'm going to do you a favor and make it so your budget don't have to be anywhere as high, because I'll take all the kids from Homer Township out. And I can build a school, just a matter of following whatever rules I have to. My attorney said that we could do it. But there's a lot of hurdles to jump, but I'm not afraid of jumping hurdles, and I will, because I'm not going to stand by and watch the people that live in our area suffer from all the taxes that are going on from school districts. My house is at least 70%, closer to 75% schools for my taxes. That's wrong. Seniors, they got the same problem. They got to get out of Dodge. They can't afford it. But I guess you guys think that you can raise taxes. But I'm letting you know, I'm giving you a warning. You guys want to raise taxes, you're going to see a fight coming out of Homer Township. And when I fight, I'm serious. I don't make things up. I am going to investigate and do my best to form a new school district and remove all the kids out of Homer Township if I have to. So please, back off so you don't save me a ton of work. I don't want to do that work, but I will. And you can ask anybody around, they'll tell you, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So please, don't do this to our families. And then I'll leave you alone. I'll just run people for the board.
Next, we have a Mr. Brent Porfilio.
Thank you, Superintendent and board members, for allowing me to provide some public comments here. I'm going to echo a lot of Steve's Steve's points. Let's go through some numbers first. So 6.04% is the tax levy you want to inflict on the township, on the Lockport and Homer townships and the entire LTHS district. So that's 3.27 million. That's what I heard is going to come out of all this. And like Steve mentioned, you have almost 57 million on reserves. So you need 3 million, and you can't take the 3 million out of the 57 million and save the taxpayers some money. Everybody knows Illinois has the second highest property taxes in the United States. Everybody feels that every year when taxes come up. And besides that, inflation this year, I think it peaked at just under 10%. That was this summer. And we haven't seen inflation at that level since, I think, Jimmy Carter. That was over 40, I think it's 43 years ago maybe. And I don't know how old everybody is in this room, but I don't think many of us even had families at that time and realistically understood the impacts of inflation. I know it was tough on my parents. We had 5 children in our family, and I'm sure other ones remember that. This is a significant thing that's happening with inflation, and it's taking a lot of people's money out of their pockets that they weren't planning on, that you have a baseline of spending that you have in your household. And every year when taxes go up, EAVs go up, inflation goes up, it takes money away from us as parents, it takes money away from our children, it takes money away from our families. And, it reaches a point where you can't go any further. I mean, it reaches a point where people get angry and they come in here and they talk about why this has got to stop. So I looked up the equalized assessed values in Homer and Lockport Township, which are part of the school district. So this is on the county website. So Lockport had a 6.4 increase in EAV last year, Lockport Township. Homer Township had a 5.6% increase in EAV. So what that means is that every year, your house is going to go up by that much. So no matter if the taxing rate of the bodies on your tax report are the same, your tax bill still goes up because the value of your homestead has gone up. So the last 2 or 3 years since COVID, there's a lot of people that lost their jobs, had less hours, or got laid off from their jobs, and people are still reeling from that. And you put that together with inflation, and you put that together with the increases in the EAV values, and we can't pay any more money. Those of us that don't get raises every year, we can't keep up. I haven't gotten a raise in 3 years. I don't know how many of you have gotten raises in the past 3 years, but we can't keep up. You're taking more and more money out of our pocket that we can't catch up to. So what bills are we going to leave on the table and not pay because we're getting too much money taken away from us? So please, we have award-winning board members here, and we have a superintendent who thinks outside the box. You have to figure out another way to pay the bills. You got to figure out a way to tighten your belt because we can't tighten our belts anymore as parents. The last of my 4 children is coming through the school this year, and she's going to graduate. But even though she graduates, I'm still going to be affected by it, and everybody else in this room is going to be affected by it because this 6% is not going to go away. So please, avoid raising our taxes 6%. Thank you.
Next, we have a Mr. Mike Carlson.
Good evening. My mom sat on a school board for District 228 for over 16 years, and I've been to the Chicago thing and everything, and I've seen how you guys work. You guys do fantastic work. I know you don't get paid for it. But you were elected in, correct, by the citizens. So by you raising the taxes, we put you in the chairs to make sure you don't raise the taxes. We put you in these seats so that you spend your money properly, not stupidity-wise. I don't know what you guys are trying to do by raising these taxes up, but you have a whole family of homes of older people that don't even have kids that go to the school, and you're going to up their taxes? How fair is that? That's not fair. Everybody in this town and in Homer and Lockport, everywhere, everybody's struggling now. Why would the school do that? That's kind of like, that's being a bully. If you're raising the taxes, you guys are being a bully. That's not setting a good example for the kids in the school. Stop being a bully. Roll up your sleeves, get a set of cojones, put your feet down and say, we can't spend this money. We can't do this. If you're gonna raise taxes and it goes through tonight, I better see another parking lot out there for these kids so they don't have to walk across the street half a mile down and freeze their asses off when they come to school here. You wanna raise taxes? Go ahead, but I'd rather see a parking lot instead of that. I'd rather see you guys make football games $1 more, make signing up for football $50. You park in the parking lot for $100, I think it is, make it $120. The people that go to the school, yeah, they should pay a little more extra money then, not the people that are sitting at home that retire in a beautiful place. Thank you.
Next, we have Miss Tammy Hayes. Tammy Hayes.
Hello, my name is Tammy Hayes, and I've been before you before, but I come today to talk about, of course, taxes. First, I'm going to share a little story with you. In this Lockport Township High School math department, we have teachers who assign homework on a website. Homework that is created by the website, where it is also graded by said website, and not by an actual human teacher. Quizzes and tests that are partially or fully completed on the Chromebooks and can be graded partly or fully by these said websites that our Chromebooks share. So at best guesstimate, it could easily be argued that 25% of a math teacher's job here at LTHS is done by our famous Chromebooks and connected websites. We have on our website, I couldn't even fit them on these pages actually, I had to write some on the bottom. There's 30 teachers, 30 math teachers and 2 math tutors. The average guesstimated salary of said math teachers is $54,000 a year. That means that $1,728,000 at LTHS is spent in the math department. 25% of that is $432,000. If the high school is so desperate for money that they are willing to sign into a forever lease for a 5G cell tower where they know nothing of its possible harmful future medical effects on those who live around it and the lowering of surrounding property values for a measly $3,000 a month, is now trying to approve a tax levy to higher property taxes, I ask that maybe it is time for LTHS to start showing the taxpayers, you know, the ones that you get the money from, where your fiscal responsibility is. Just like in our tax-paying households, when prices raise and we can't afford to put gas in our cars, and we can't afford McDonald's, and we can't afford this, and we can't afford that, we don't get to just go to our boss and say, so here's the deal. Inflation is high, so give us more money. It doesn't work like that. We tighten our belts. We do our own chores. We do our own lawns. We take care of stuff. We cut things out. I think it's time for LTHS to tighten their belts. I think it's time for you to be fiscally responsible in every single department, in every single salary, in every single area of this school. Where is the money? Where is it going? Is it being spent well? Because, like, if you owned a business and 25% wasn't doing so good and you could cut that 25%, apparently the math department would be saving $432,000. And I think that that's something that the taxpayers would want to know. The taxpayers want to know where you're going to cut your budgets and where you're going to tighten your belts. And what about unused COVID funds? The year that we left the school, you had a plan for lunches. And the government paid our lunches for 2 years. Where did that money go? Where's that money? I think that you need to show some real numbers. I think that LTHS, it's time to start showing us where the numbers are, where they're going, and where you're going to cut back. Just raising taxes is not the answer. Everyone knows that. You don't need 35 people here to tell you the same thing.
Is this Michael Dean?
First of all, I'd like to thank the board. You were voted in, and you don't accept any money. Well, I helped out in the community in any way I can get, and I didn't receive any money. But I enjoyed doing it. But to sit here and listen to you talk now, I'm starting to get a little aggravated. First of all, you talked about how great these students are, and they were. I give them applause. I give the teachers applause. But nationally, this school, 7,698. That's what you rate right now, nationally. In 2000, you rated 4,392. Why? Why does Walter Payton High School, number 1 in the state, and we're number 102? Why? I've been paying my dues and I've been paying my money. I am the customer. Now you want to raise my taxes and I'm finding out $56 million is in the pot? You're wrong. And you're 7th in Will County. You must be proud of yourself. When my kids went to this school, it was great. I had no complaints, and they are surviving and thriving. If I brought them in here, I'd give them a standing ovation for what the school did, the community did, and what we accomplished. But I don't see it now. I'm seeing it going backwards. Not forwards, but backwards. It's like I said, I am the customer. And when they talk about how much money is spent in taxes, I got them right here. Anybody want to read what my taxes are? And I was here in 79 and 77. You know what a recession is? Is when your neighbor is out of work. You know what a depression is? Is when you're out of work. Just think about that. It's coming. I've seen this with Carter. And I tell my kids, you better start tightening it now. And if you want to raise 6%, especially with seniors who especially are paying prices for prescription drugs. I hear these federal government people say, we're giving it to you. No, they're not. I'll guarantee I should have brought them down here. My wife takes certain kind of medicine that cost me. And I worked very hard all my life. And I don't like to complain, but when you're going to raise my taxes and I don't have any other income besides what I'm getting in and what I achieved, and now you in Illinois or this school district wants to take it from me, this 6%. And I wish there was more elderly people up here to explain to them that 6% is a lot of money to them. Maybe not to you. I mean, I don't know what you make, 200,000, what do you make? I don't know what people make. That's up to the individual. God bless you. But when I'm on a fixed income and you sit here like you're really doing something for me with 6.9 with $56 million in the pot, and now I'm listening, you're charging $5 for a cup of coffee, and you got some kind of something else going up in the air for the phones? Well, thank you very much. I'm with Steve on this one. Bring it to Homer. We wanted a new school in Homer a long time ago. It was voted down because of Crest Hill and Lockport didn't want it, because they would have to pay the taxes and they weren't going to use it. Well, I'm not using this here school right now. So give me back my money. And here's my taxes. Anybody want to read them? I'll give it to you. School district. That's for the grammar school now. $3,103. This school district is $1,520. Like I need it like a hole in the head. My kids don't go to school anymore, and I used to pay it because when I read my numbers off, you're failing. You're not winning. You make a few kids over here, but not the main majority of them. I didn't fight for this country to see education go down. I fought for it to bring it up, like Walter Payton back there in Chicago. Now, if you want to see what Walter Payton is doing, fine. Let's bring it in this school. Let's get all these kids up here. I would have liked to see more parents in this community out here. Every child, every parent should be out here for their education purposes. But I'm done with this. Why do I need it? You know what I need? When this Safety Act comes in, I need a police force. I apologize. Can I just have a few more minutes and I'll leave?
You got 30 seconds.
Okay. That's what I got when I came back overseas, too. I was a baby killer. Put that into 30 seconds. It's wrong what you guys are doing up here with the 6.9%. It's wrong how you're teaching our kids. I don't know what's going on in these classrooms, but if you really want to know what's going on in these classrooms, I want cameras in here then. I want to see what's really going on in these classrooms. What's going in the hallways? What's really coming about? You guys were supposed to be the education people of the world. I'm finding a dump. Anytime anybody goes down and you want to give yourself a hand, go ahead.
Okay, sir.
But I'm not.
Your time's up.
Oh, I forgot my jacket. Don't sell it on
Yeah, you'll leave there.
Next, we have Mr. Bill Passadale.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, who's this?
Bill Passalia.
Okay.
The G is silent. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And I wanted to say that, you know, the taxes are already too high. So we're talking about raising it another 7%. The taxes are already too high, and people are leaving Illinois. I'm a land investor. I invest in real estate, and what we're doing is we're liquidating our holdings here in Lockport, and we're moving them down to Florida. In Florida, our real estate taxes are 1/10 of what they are here. Now, the rebuttal that I've gotten is, yeah, but what are the schools like? So just in case that came up, I looked at that just tonight, and in Florida, they had a 59% proficiency for the state. 59%. And we here in Lockport, we've got 40% at the high school. Now, if we want to compare it to other high schools, we can do that. But to compare it to the state of Florida, we are dismally behind. Now, also, I mean, if I had a mechanic that only fixed my car 40% of the time that I brought him, I would rehire or find somebody else to do my mechanical work. So it's already too high, and that's the point that I want to make. Already people are leaving Illinois. Already our property, when you tax us, not only are you taking that money from our income, but you're also depleting the value of our homes. The real estate values in states that don't have as high a real estate as we do in Illinois, their value, the property values are going up, so we get taxed twice. Once when you take it from us, once on the value of the homes, and then we don't get the education that our students are entitled to because we paid for it. And thanks again for your time.
Mr. Jeff Presval, hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly.
It's close enough.
Okay.
Well, my name is Jeff Prisbel. I've been a resident of the district for almost 20 years. First topic I'd like to comment on is the acceptance of the lease agreement with AT&T for the cell tower on school property. On November 8th, I sent an email to the board at schoolboard@lths.org email address for your review. If you didn't receive the email, I have a copy here I'm glad to share with you. I'd like to thank Mr. McBride for replying to my email. It's rather disingenuous to say the lease was discussed at 5 public meetings when the specifics of the final lease agreement were available to the public less than 7 days before the board voted to approve it. It wasn't a very good look when 6 board members, 5 of whom have been voting for board issues for over 3 years, didn't know how to handle a vote of abstain as outlined in section 220 in the district's policy manual. The school district did not need to enter into any lease of school property. The school district is here to educate students, not to provide better cell phone coverage to the community. According to board agendas and minutes, AT&T contacted the district about leasing land. The district had something AT&T wanted. The contract terms should have reflected that. For your information, AT&T's net income last year was just under $20 billion. I don't know how else to put it, but whoever advised the board that this was a good deal for this district should never be allowed to give the board any financial advice. In Section 280 of the board policy, the board member oath and conduct states, "I shall respect taxpayer interest by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets." The board approved a 50-year lease of school property, a term that most of you may not see the conclusion. It's an understatement to say the lease appears very one-sided in favor of AT&T. Only AT&T can cancel the contract without cause. If AT&T requests additional land, the district is obligated to lease it to them at the current rate. AT&T is able to sublease access to the facility and equipment with no additional income passed through to the district. In the event of a casualty or other harm affecting the property, the district will make additional property available to AT&T during the repair period at no additional cost. A fall zone will be determined by engineers. This area is designed to minimize damage or injury from pole collapse, ice, or debris fall. This may restrict the use of district property outside of the leased area, including the ball fields and existing structures for the term of the lease. Upon termination of the lease, any equipment left behind belongs to the district. The district could be responsible for the removal of a 150-foot tall cell tower. The district would also be responsible for maintaining the landscaping during the life of the lease. The lease begins with annual rent of $37,000. If the school levy is $100, this rental income represents just 7 cents of the total levy. In 2021, inflation was over 7%. This year, inflation is running over 8%. The lease requires 3% annual increases, less than half the inflation rate of either of the last 2 years. Keep this 3% annual increase in mind for later. Now we get into the proposed tax levy. Cost of living adjustments for Social Security recipients are based on the CPI or rate of inflation. Since 2014, the annual cost of living for Social Security recipients has averaged just over 2.5%. Over that same time period, the school district's total levy has increased average over 3% annually. During the same time, enrollment has increased about 20%, operating expenses has increased 23%. According to the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics, year over year, hourly wages through the first quarter of 2022 fell 0.5% in Will County. At your June 20 board meeting, the following compensation increases were approved. Superintendent, 5%. Directors, 5.92%. Non-collective bargaining employees, somewhere between 5.4 to 5.92%. In the past year, the following taxing bodies have decreased my taxes: the Forest Preserve, Homer Township Roads, the Village of Homer Glen, and the Village of Homer Glen Roads and Bridges. You will notice I did not mention any school districts. I paid more to them than last year.
Excuse me, sir?
Yes.
30 seconds.
Okay. To see how the district taxpayers feel about paying more taxes, look at the November 8th referendum on the ballot for District 91 in Lockport, a feeder school to the high school. District 91 asked for the limiting rate to be increased less than 0.25%. 2,500 people voted 58 to 42 against the rate increase. The bothering part for me is the quote from tonight's agenda: "It is better to have the levy reduced by application of the PTEL than to under-levy. A levy that is less than the final extension is potentially revenue lost not only this year, but for all future years." In other words, once we get an amount in the levy from taxpayers, we have it forever. Remember that 3% increase in the cell tower? You want 6% from us. You're discussing 6. Yes.
5 minutes is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have a Mr. Michael Bonomo.
Yes.
I hope I'm pronouncing that name.
Hi, good evening, board. Good evening, superintendent. My name is Mike Bonomo. I'm a newly elected Homer Township trustee from 2021. A couple of my brothers are from the township board. We have Homer Glen board members as well. And when we put out paraphernalia and stuff to the people in the area, we profess fiscal responsibility. And I'm sure a lot of you on the board have done the same. And by increasing taxes, you really go against your promise of fiscal responsibility. And we, as a township board, we lowered our taxes by 25%, Steve? 20% across the board by cutting costs. You know, you can look at, you know, I guess everyone on this board lives in District 205. Look at your school tax bill. Do you think it's too high? Ask 10 of your neighbors. It's too high. Come time, if you're going to go for re-election for the board, think about that. There is nobody that's going to vote for you if you vote for this increase. You know, you have to think about your checking account and the money that you have in it. If your costs go up, you get to cut back. I mean, with gas. If you don't want to pay high gas prices, you don't drive. If you don't want to pay for high electricity, you cut back on your use of electricity. Unfortunately, your tax increase is shoved down our throats, and there's nothing we could do about it. We're forced to pay it, and it's unfair. So like everyone has said, you have to look at cutting costs. Now, I'm in a family business. We have to cut costs every day. And with the cell tower, we have actually a tower in our business, and we had a lease going month to month. They came to us last month, and they want to buy out the lease. We were getting about $5,000 a month, and they're going to give us about $700,000 to buy out the lease and then keep it going. So whoever negotiated that $3,000 a month or whatever you're getting for that cell tower, it's a poor negotiation thing, and there is ways around that, and it needs to be talked about. Again, a 6% increase on top of what we're currently paying for gas, for food. They're saying Thanksgiving, the cost is going up 60% on everything. And again, you guys could vote yes on all this, but think about it. Look at your tax bill yourself and ask 10 of your neighbors. And I guarantee you all 10 will say our taxes are too high. It's your job to listen to us, okay? And if you're going to do that, you'll vote no. And again, us as a township board, village board, we hear crap every day. If we're going to throw an increase, we're going to have rocks thrown at us, you name it, okay? You guys are in a really thankless job. I mean, again, you're not getting paid. You're volunteering to do this, putting your time and energy in front of everybody. And yeah, you're getting hit with a lot of shots and stuff from people. And you know, it's not, you're looking at things, and what you have to do is you have to justify your position. Okay, justify why you need this $3 million, okay? And again, there's ways to cut costs. I would say go to every salary and maybe cut it 5% and see where you could save. You know, added bonuses, what have you. I mean, in my job, I can't get bonuses right now because of the economy. I mean, we don't know where we're going, where we're headed right now in terms of the economy. They're talking a depression, a recession, you name it. And if you increase the taxes, it's stuck. We're stuck with it. And if I don't pay my property taxes, I get a lien on my house, and then I'm SOL. But the school is going to get their money eventually. And again, I just think that a 6% increase at this time is unwarranted, and I think you should rethink it, reconsider it, and maybe down the road, when the economy gets better, the inflation goes down to 1-2%, yeah, we'd all love to pay a higher tax if it's going to improve the school district. You know, you talk about seniors. We're 30. What's our senior population? 45% in the township? 50%. Those people, as well as I, moved to this area for District 205, for the high school district. In 1978, we moved to Naperville for 203. People move here because of the school district, okay? And by increasing the taxes, having all your neighbors complaining about the high costs and stuff, and then knowing that our rating has gone down in the state and the county, that's an issue that should be discussed before any increase. Because when your quality goes down, you should not ask for more money. You should look at why the quality is going down before you justify anything. So I'm here to say you should say no. Again, think about yourselves. If you think the taxes are too high from the school district, we're thinking the same thing, and you need to reconsider it. And again, don't do it now, do it later. Wait to see where the economy is heading before you make any decisions and forcing this tax increase down our throat, because that's exactly what you're doing. We can't say no to it, but you can. Just remember that. Thank you.
Next, we have Tricia Tabor.
Good evening, board members. I'm Tricia Tabor. I've been here before. I'm just gonna piggyback off of what Mike commented on about the taxes and the senior citizens and getting a set income. On another side of that, I'm on disability. Am I ashamed? Sometimes, yes, but that is also a set income. I know what it is to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it is to decide not to go somewhere because I only had enough money and enough gas in my tank to get me to a doctor's appointment. So I don't go or drive my daughter to school every day. And it's just hard times. It's really, really hard times. So I know what the senior citizens are feeling because I feel it too. But thankfully, I have a partner that, he doesn't make that much, but he's there. So if I fall short on something, I get help. And I have great parents. I have a great support system. But what about people like me that don't have that? What if all they have is just their side income and they know where money goes to every bill every single month? And then you're gonna add a 6.04% tax increase. Why? You guys are smart people. Figure it out. Take it from somewhere else. Do something. I mean, I know I gotta do it. You guys can too, honestly. I mean, I moved here 19 years ago in October, and I did research schools. And I was excited. I heard nothing but good things about LTHS, about District 92, where my girls went. But sadly to say, if someone asked me now, would you move to Lockport or Homer and how are the schools? I would tell them to move somewhere else. I wouldn't come here. If I had a choice, I would move somewhere else. But being on disability, I'm kind of stuck. I can't move somewhere else. So please, find it in your hearts, if above anything else, to please put this on hold, wait to see where the economy goes, find the money from somewhere else, and just vote no. Please.
Mr. Jay Brody.
Board members, superintendent, LTHS staff, and taxpayers. 6.04 levy. Kind of hard to wrap your head around that when historically, people in our nation, if they get a pay increase, historically is between 1.5% to 3%. But you want to raise 6%, a 6% levy, way outside the means. When you look at your ending budget, your deficit in June of 22, you've got $56 million, 56.34, something like that. With an operating budget of 61 million, I think, you roughly have 90% of of your annual expenses in the bank. How many taxpayers you think have 90% of their annual home budgets in the bank? I'm willing to bet not many of them. I'm going to probably tell you probably less than 10% of them. You think that that's a good route to go, a good way to go? You guys are the board. You can vote on it. say yes. The taxpayers are watching. If they're not watching live, they're going to probably watch, during the week. We are supposed to be the land of the free. Taxpayers, you're watching over there. When you go to the gas pump and you're paying double the price for gas just to go to work, do you feel more free? When you go grocery shopping this week with the high inflation and you're paying for your groceries higher than you probably have ever seen before, do you feel more free? When District 205 has District 205 has $56 million in the bank, and then they want to reach in your pocket and grab another $3 million, do you feel more free? I'm thinking not. I'm thinking that if they decide to pass a 6% levy, I really think they shouldn't have an increase in their levy at all. But if they decide to pass that levy, you need to look no further than the board members here tonight that vote yes. I would look at those board members that are up for election this year, and the people that are here, I would look no further than Dr. Robert McBride, your superintendent. 6.04%. It's asinine, especially when they agreed to a contract with a multi-billion-dollar company with their increases from rent only at 3%. They're willing to only charge AT&T 3% increases on property now that cannot be used for 50 years, but they're willing to raise the taxpayer 6%. I hope you guys remember this at election time. Thank you.
Ms. Jennifer Consolino?
Good evening. Did I do this right? Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay.
That's for the live stream at home.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll just speak a little louder, sorry. Okay, I'll try and keep mine shorter, but I do want to thank everybody who came out and spoke tonight. As a trustee with the Village of Homer Glen, I'm here to speak on behalf of some of my constituency. I've come before this board previously requesting for you to work with parents and to do your jobs that you were elected for and hired for. Today, I'm here to speak against your tax levy. For the record, Lockport Township High School District 205 has recklessly increased our property taxes each year throughout the pandemic. You did this when the schools were closed and while cutting back services once the schools were open. You've increased our taxes several times when you received state and federal funding for PPP and ESSER. That's just the stuff that I know about. Anyone can FOIA these amounts for you in the live view public. You increased our taxes without any consideration for the economic hardships of our families and our community, and we've been facing the damage that was forced upon our children by the closures of our schools and the remote learning. You made zero cutbacks in salaries and spending. As of June 2022, you had a $56 million surplus. According to records with government watchdog groups, Superintendent McBride was making over $215,000 in 2020. What is his salary at today? Mr. McBride, your salary is 245% higher than anyone else in District 205. LTHS District 205 employed 517 people in 2020. Their average wage was $62,266. Their median wage was $59,314. What are the numbers today? You had 485 staff members left in 2021. I don't know what the numbers are right now. I have to ask, where is your common sense? Where is your proof of your fiscal responsibility and your accountability to our community? You have countlessly overtaxed our residents in this community without cutting any of your budget. The Village of Homer Glen chose to not increase the tax levy that we currently had in place last year. We're working to do the same thing next month. We are doing our due diligence and working to accommodate our tax-paying residents, all of them. I would suggest that this board does the same. You have an election coming up in just 4 short months on April 4th, 2023. It has been a very ugly term with this school board and its lack of transparency or accountability to our parents. Parents are paying attention. Parents have had enough. Even if this meeting doesn't reflect just how many. Residents from both Homer Glen and Lockport are paying attention. We pay 70 to 74% of our ever-increasing property taxes to you, our school board. And it's an unnecessary burden on all of us for what we get, for what our children get. Part of your job is to act fiscally responsible, and it's to be accountable for your spending. It's your time to do your job. If my municipality can, if Homer Township can, so can you. Now, what I looked up tonight when I was sitting in the meeting were the past 2 tax levies for 2020 and 2021. I couldn't find the numbers for today, for the 2022. But I think it's very interesting, and I want it on record that the way it was divided up for educational in 2020, it was $42,177,746. That went down last year, to $37,864,502. Why? And then in 2020, it was for operational and maintenance, $6,250,620. That went up last year over $3 million to $9,635,206. Transportation's another one. I understand that gas went up this year and last year, but transportation in 2020 was at $1,896,402. Last year, it went up to $4,569,014, and I don't even want to mention the horror stories I've heard about the buses. In there, same thing. Your retirement went up, your Social Security went up, but educational dropped. And then I like to say something I found in the endless paperwork that I was looking at on the website. Why do taxes have to go up at all? Part of the FAQ stuff. LTHS uses property taxes as the main source of funding for the schooling of students. Educational program costs include teacher salaries, 30 seconds, building maintenance and upkeep, and any equipment or supplies that are needed. Make sure that educational opportunities are provided at cost efficiently. I'm going to repeat that. Cost efficiently as possible is an important role that board members fulfill along with the people employed by the school to manage costs. I'm going to ask you, like I've asked you in the past, please listen to the parents and the residents that are speaking. Thank you.
Mr. Dan Falco.
Hello, Superintendent. Hello, Board. I come to you today not only as a representative of Homer Glen. I've been here in the community for 29 years. When we came out here, the school district at that time, or Lockport High School, was second to Nutcher in that time period. So when we came out here for the schools. I haven't had any kids in the school system for 15 years now. My parents live here, they're in their 80s. I do worry about our older citizens that are looking to move to Florida, and now they have to take and pay, again. But know what I'm here for? I'm actually here to give you encouragement and to tell you a little story. In Homer Glen in 2021, there was a tax levy put on the agenda. It was to raise taxes $1.5 million. We had people come up to this podium, or to the podium in Homer Glen. We had people crying, asking the board members to not raise the taxes. You know what they did? They ignored those pleas from the public. And in 2021, April of 2021, April of 21. It was in 2020 that the plea was put out there. So I got the years incorrect. But they did not listen to the people. And when they didn't listen to the people, in 2021, April 2021, they lost that election. So I'm here not only as a representative of the township for Precinct 7 in Homer Township, I am also a trustee for the Village of Homer Glen. And when that board was flipped over, we were then put, the next year, a tax levy was put on us of $3.7 million was on our agenda. Now, I know the board, for us, our stuff goes on the agenda, and we didn't put that on the agenda, but it was on the agenda for the taxes to go up that high. What we did is we didn't even wait. So I'm trying to give you encouragement. We didn't even wait for it. We took it off the agenda, and we did not vote on that tax increase. So the people that are here, Trustee Casalino, it was Trustee Laha, Trustee Pazmino, it was Trustee Reinders, and myself, took that off the agenda, and we did not raise taxes. Now this year, Superintendent Brent Portfolio for the road district just lowered taxes again 25%. Now the easy thing for us to do would be, because we get the half share from that, we could take and we could raise the taxes in Homer Glen to take up and make up for the half share we're going to lose from the 25% that the road district has lowered the taxes. We're not going to do that because we've decided to think outside of the box in how we can do things differently. And it's not easy being a board member. I know because I've been there. And we get accused, oh, you're going to raise taxes without even the vote coming. So I empathize with the board and with you guys and the things that you've got to go through, and you get beat up a little bit. But you've heard all the pleas from, I'm going to roll back to 2020, December in Homer Glen. You've heard the pleas from the people. The people are asking you to think outside the box. Don't raise taxes 6.04%. Find a way to work around it. Do something different. I don't know that the cell phone tower was the answer, because we also were on a piece of property where they were getting a lot more money for a cell phone tower than $3,000 a month with our business when we had our business. So I'm asking you as a board to kind of take the encouragement from the trustees in the Village of Homer Glen and maybe follow what we did somewhat, or do a little better than 6.04%. Do something so it shows that you're doing your homework, you're doing your due diligence, you're taking and working for the taxpayers, and you give examples. Okay, we're going to do this, we're going to lower taxes, or we're going to make adjustments here, or we're going to cut back here so we don't have to raise the taxes. It's the easy thing for everybody in this room to do would be to raise the taxes. That would have been the easy thing for us to do. Instead of trying to find a way around it, would have been to just raise the taxes. That's an easy way out. So if you guys could take the time and figure that out and listen to your constituents this time, because the constituents have come to us on the trustee side and on the village side, the trustees, and we are hearing the complaints that taxes are too high. And we see the people leaving the state are going to over the border to Indiana, where they're going to Florida. Everybody knows that. But the thing is, we can stop that by fixing where we live. We work under that phrase. We say, let's see how we can fix where we live instead of making up excuses, not doing the right thing, and just trying to get the easy way out. And the easy way out here would be by raising taxes. Let's see how we can roll up our sleeves here, find a different way, and not raise the taxes. We don't need everybody leaving. I don't want to see my parents have to go to Indiana or Florida. Thank you. I don't want to see my parents or move to Indiana or Florida because the taxes are going to be raised. And I think you've heard enough from the other people that are here today. And thank you for your time.
Communications, there is none. There in your board pack, you have the Freedom of Information request. There were 2 of those. Okay. So moving on to our approval items. Yes. Yeah, the minutes. Okay, yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes from the October 17, 2022 regular board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any discussions or questions to those minutes? Hearing none, roll call.
Travis,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarra,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from the October 17, 2022 regular board meeting minutes as attached and corrected?
So moved.
I can second that. Is there any discussion or any correction to those board meeting minutes?
This is where we're changing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just, for a point of clarification, this is the meeting where we voted for the cell tower, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, and before us is a changing of the minutes because of, and as one of the gentlemen's point out, we were incorrect. I was at the meeting, I'll take the responsibility as much as everybody else. We did incorrectly count the vote because we have 7 board members, 1 was absent, and 2 abstained. So therefore, we have 4 voting members, which is a majority, which is allowable because this was not an expenditure, it's a revenue item, so 4 is okay. And we voted 3-1 in favor. So, yeah, so the motion that is put forth, and this is just, as I understand it, it's a motion for, we're just approving potentially the use of high school land, because it's gotta go to the city, and the city may vote it down, and it's a moot point, because they're gonna survey the neighbors and everything, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It's gonna go before the planning commission.
I'm sorry, I should have said.
Yeah, planning commission,
I just
and I'm
wanna
sure they're
clarify.
gonna do a public hearing and then take,
So,
resident surveys
right,
at
so-
that point. And then from whatever discussion, whatever transpires there at the planning commission, because it can die there. I mean,
Right.
it just,
If it doesn't make it to the planning, it's a moot point.
it's a moot point, that's right. But then from the planning, it goes to the city council for approval.
Right, which they'll go through the process similar to we did, in
Yes.
the Finance and Facilities Committee that I chair and that we went to and had discussion on prior board meetings. So all we're doing is we're changing the motion because we incorrectly counted the votes and the motion actually technically passed as
Yes,
pursuant
so we're
to
just-
the
yes, we're
coming
just
to order
changing-
and the
yes.
Open Meetings Act.
We're just changing the minutes.
Right.
To reflect
To
the-
reflect.
Right, to
Okay.
reflect the mistake, and it was, and the
Yes.
gentleman's absolutely right, and I'm willing,
Yes.
I own up to my mistakes, so.
I'd like to say, since my vote, I've had additional information that now if we had a revote on that, I would have voted no. So it's too late, I already voted, but I didn't have the information that came about after the vote, so.
So, all right, so then what we'll do is, let me see.
Revote.
I have let's see, there's already a motion and a second to correct the meeting minutes as presented. Okay.
Correct.
Yes, roll call?
Johnson. Yes. Navarra,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes from the October 20th, 2022 special board meeting?
So move.
It's been motioned by Mr. Ives and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any discussion or questions on those meeting minutes?
I have a question.
Sure.
Was I in attendance at that one? I can't remember.
You were, that was a
Okay, all right.
closed session for students.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, now I recall.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
you were. Okay.
Because it's not our regular, that's.
Yeah,
that's
that's
what I
right.
was asking. All right, okay, thank you.
All right, roll call?
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarra,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from the October 2022 special board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Mr. Ives and second by Dr. Shaw. Are there any questions or discussion to those board meeting minutes?
Okay.
Hearing none.
I can't, I have to abstain for 3 and 4, right? I wasn't there.
Yes, you weren't at the meeting.
Can I amend to abstain for those?
You
I
can.
accidentally said yes to the closed. I thought that was a different thing.
No.
Okay. All right, roll call.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Navarro,
Abstain.
Johnson,
Yeah.
Ives,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Okay, and then we have no board member expenses. All right, do I have a motion to approve the October 2022 treasurer's report?
So moved.
Before we go there,
We can get a motion in a second.
we can get a motion in a
Mrs.
second,
Croy.
and then Mr. Croy would,
Yeah, motion second, and then
Then,
she'll
yes.
speak in the discussion.
all right, who motioned it?
I did.
All right,
And then Mr.
okay,
Travis seconded.
then Mr. Travis.
Before Mrs. Croy kind of draws our attention to a number of things, I think there's so many good comments, and I really hope folks can stay because we have two portions of the agenda that will really dig into finances. One thing that I think is important, a question was raised a number of times by members of the public of where is it? And I do have to draw people's attention that we publish this every month. We're not required to do so, or we have minimum requirements, but we exceed those requirements. What is on this screen right now is publicly available to anyone who goes to our website and accesses this agenda. I think that's important because just to give a few illustrations of Mrs. Croy's work, these are every single bill, for example, that we pay. It's voluminous, it's every single page. Where does the money go is right there. Financial reports, these financial reports are published monthly. They contain our funds, what the funds are, what our fund balances are. It's never a surprise that the educational fund, we are primarily a people business. We primarily employ the people to, access the human potential of other people. So all of these reports indicate our cash flow, indicate when cash comes in. We've heard the number $56 million on June 30th, 2022. Anyone who takes a look at this, someone who's a CPA, someone who's an accountant, has a financial background in Mrs. Croy, we would be delighted to know where the $56 million is because none of these reports indicate $56 million in any kind of cash reserve. $56 million aligns to our budget, but most taxpayers know that a budget is something that you receive tax income in a date like June 30th, and then you spend that tax income over the course of the year. Mrs. Croy, on behalf of the board, wisely invests that. Perhaps speakers are talking about the investment she's made, because obviously it would be foolish to have taxpayer money that we're going to spend over the course of a year and not invest that money so that taxpayers could earn the maximum amount on that money as we spend it down. So perhaps speakers are looking at the investments that we make with that tax money. But I would invite anyone just to take a look at these financial reports. They're open to the public. They're accessible to anybody at any time if you can go online. We're also happy to print them as well. There are some important things in here that I just would like to preface and then dive into Mrs. Croy's report. One of the really important things that we did at the beginning of this meeting is we held a transfer because it's been the board's strategy that any fund balances, for a lack of a better word, savings that the board might have, that is reinvested in the people's property, in our buildings. So that when we need a $4 million roof or a $1 million renovation after about 25 years of auditorium sound and light, or a renovation of a library, or the A fields, or $500,000 in masonry work at Central, that money is reinvested through fund transfers so that we are not deferring maintenance, ballooning that, then going to the taxpayers for referendum to say, gosh, we have to take care of all these building needs. That's the most important asset that the public owns, are the buildings in the school district. You'll see those roofing repairs and auditorium and visual updates. The whole idea there is using our fund balances, any kind of savings, that's not really how school finance describes it, to reinvest that so that we don't have to go to the voters. Or, for example, what we're looking at with those transfers are about $5 million worth of work that needs to be done on the physical asset of these buildings. Imagine if we rolled that into our levy, and we're not astute, you as a board, keeping fund balances where you could pay for that and not roll it into a levy. You'll see that. Mrs. Croy, just things you want to highlight. Sorry to steal your thunder a little bit, but it's just so important. I think members of the public at home and folks here, you can see that every month, and I would really invite you to dig deep into it because it's very rich, very transparent. I would even argue perhaps more transparent than many public bodies because we have different requirements as a school.
Thank you, Dr. McBride. Yes, and the first thing I guess I'd like to point out, as Dr. McBride reiterated, or I'll reiterate what he said, our fund balances are in the statement of position in the financial reports. So that is listed there. One of the board's goals, as you all are aware, is 6 to 12 months cash on hand. So that goal does kind of drive some of the cash management. So the fund balances are in the statement of position. And just a note on fund balances as they are compared to today versus compared to June 30th. June 30th is actually a high water mark. And the reason it is because the way that we collect our funds are different than the way that individuals get paid, right? Individuals get paid every 2 weeks, every week, every month. So you have constant income coming in. We don't have constant income coming in. We have an influx of dollars that come in September and in June. And so when we collect money in June, we need to hold that money for the next 6 months to pay the bills. So, and then when we collect in September, it needs to last us till the next time we collect funds, because that's the way the tax collection process works here in Will County. So June 30th is a high watermark because we've just collected half of a tax levy, which is $30+ million. So that's just kind of a point to look at when you do look at fund balances, what that means. And so, like Dr. McBride said, we do reinvest the dollars we collect scheduled out so that investments mature to cover the bills, right? So every 2 weeks when we pay our employees, we have investments maturing to cover those. The other things that the board will notice in this month's treasurer's report is there's information on enrollment projections. This is the time of year that we typically present enrollment projections to the board because October 1st is the fall housing numbers are due to the State Board of Education. So we collect all that information from our feeder districts and provide information to the board on what we think our enrollment will look like for the next 5 years. So there is a projection there are some schedules in the treasurer's report here. And what's up there actually was just the summary schedule, kind of giving you an idea what our enrollment's doing. The projection is the same as it's similar to what it was last year. It's actually, the numbers are slightly higher than what they were last year, as far as what the projection looks like. But it does still look like we'll gradually kind of level off over the next 5 years or so. The other thing that I would like to point out is the rest of the schedule that is actually up on the screen here. The first section of the budget, the narrative budget document, is provided for the board in here, and it talks about the expenditures because, Dr. McBride and I thought it was important for the board to see the expenditures of the district, what they are, what they mean as you're contemplating a levy, right? We do build the levy based on what our expenditures are going to look like. So that's what drives it. We look at what the costs are first and what the needs are of the buildings and everything first. So there's a schedule. This is the schedule up on the screen here about budget expenditure comparison that shows that this year's budget analysis, overall 5.38% increase in expenditures. So if the board were to approve the 6.03, that will cover these. because 50% of the levy that the board will be approving tentatively tonight and in final in December, because there's a statutory timeline between when you have to approve a tentative estimated levy versus the final levy. That's why we're asking you to approve a tentative tonight. 50% of it is in this budget. So 50% of it would be to cover these expenditures. So if something less than 6% is passed, then that would mean that some of these expenditures will probably go over budget because we still have to spend them. But that's, it's entirely, up to the board. The board just needs to make an educated decision, of course. And so the expenditures here show you that the bulk of them are salaries and benefits, 4.27, 4.58, purchase services. So what I'd like to point out in between those numbers is through collective bargaining agreements, the board and the union have agreed to salary arrangements in the middle of the pandemic. So those agreements, those collective bargaining agreements, were in year 2 of 3 for the teachers' contract. So those are reflected in here between the benefits and the salaries. That's a cost that the board has tried to control through collective bargaining with the union. An understanding between the parties that salaries need to be it's the biggest expenditure of the district, right? So something that's outside of our control is purchase services. Those are the services that the district just has to pay, like special education, special services like for nurses, for OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, et cetera, for special education busing, for other professional services provided to the district that we have a lot less control over, but we still need to function. Those went up 14%. So between the combination of the pieces, and then I don't know who's on this screen, but if you can scroll so we can see the top of the graph as well. The other objects in tuition, that's special education and regular education outplaced tuition. So entities like Wilco for our students that are going into programs that are career-oriented that we don't provide here, as well as special education outplacements for students with needs that we can't provide in-house. Those costs have gone up 22%. So we still need to pay those things because we are still obligated to provide educational services for those students, but we have less control over negotiating those costs. So I just want to point that out to the district, or to the board. Are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Ives.
One is, both Dr. McBride and yourself talked about the investment of the financial resources, that we're protecting for the constituents. Can you explain a little further? Because those are very conservative. We don't have the volatility of the stock market per se and things like that.
Correct.
Can you elaborate a little on where we put those?
Yes, the board, the district has an investment policy that we have to invest in certain types of investments, right? So the district's investments are all in treasury bonds right now or CDs. Right. The bulk of it right now are treasury bonds because we could get a higher yield. And we also cannot extend out beyond about a year. Most of our investments go a year, maybe 2 years for very small amounts, because the intent of collecting taxpayer money is to pay it within the next year, to use it within the next year.
Right.
So we're really only investing for the needs for the next year.
Okay, and so, because I was looking at it before, how much is our health insurance going up?
Health insurance for this budget that you're looking at did not go up that much. We were looking at 5-6%. I think our actual was 8, I think, in here. Let me look at the actual number here. Nope, I'm wrong, 9.6. And then we had our first preliminary discussion for next year, and it's looking more like 15.
15 to 20, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Being one who works in the field, it's going up tremendously. So, okay, thanks. Thanks for those.
Then everybody else's health insurance is going up too, right? I mean, sorry, but,
Does anybody,
not everybody has health insurance and afford it.
does the board have any other questions for me on this expenditure document or any other part of the treasurer's reports?
There is a really good point, and I don't remember what speaker made it about educational expenditures going down, because a number of people have mentioned sort of reductions and things like that. For example, how we do that is we've hired more people this year, but our salaries are down. And that's one way the board knows that we control costs, is by controlling the cost of people that we hire. Also, this just kind of gives you a graphic of where the money goes. Again, this is publicly available. But right now, I thought the board was very wise in concluding salary agreements during the pandemic, because now, in bargaining, many districts deferred bargaining until after the pandemic, and associations and unions are asking for increases commensurate with the rate of inflation that everybody's talked about and is very real. So unions and associations are asking 8 to 10%. We agreed with our union much lower than that, and good or bad for our staff, we have those as long-term. So that's our effort, your effort, to try to control those kind of costs that you can control. And then through hiring, make decisions that lower payroll progressively without cutting programs to students. Yeah, Mr. Navarro.
I can't help but notice student activities went up 200%. Is that because of is that because kids are just more active in clubs, or are they just taking more field trips? Because that's actually a pretty good sign.
So technically, that's an accounting thing. So ISB changed. The Illinois State Board of Education changed how we have to report. Actually, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board changed how we have to report our expenditures for student activities. We used to report them as a separate fund, right? And the board sees those reports every month, by the way. The student activity report and the athletic booster report are in there every month showing the activity. But those activities used to be just separated. Now they have to be incorporated in the budget. So that's why that looks that way. It's something new to this year's budget. Last year, it was incorporated just a tiny little bit, and then it was fully incorporated this year. So that 200% is not really indicative of an increase in activity expenditures as much as it is in a movement to those expenditures into, like, an incorporation into our finances. Okay, but that's a good observation, Mr. Navarro. We will be talking more, obviously, about the levy when that item comes up in the budget. But one of the things I would like to point out about how the levy works under the property tax extension limitation law is the district has one operating levy that's limited, right, by CPI. And that levy can be spread across the funds of the district as needed by the expenditures of the district. And it varies from fund to fund by year to year. So we don't keep putting the same amount of money in the ed fund or the O&M fund or the transportation fund every year. We don't put the same amount in every year because the expenditures change and the other sources of revenue change. So the way that the levy is determined is its expenditures are figured out, then we figure out what other sources of revenue do we have. And in any given year, for example, a year of a pandemic where we have lots of extra sources of funds, we may not need as much money in the education fund because those other sources of funds have gone in there to offset the education fund levy. So that's why it looks a little skewed going from one year to the next between funds. It's really a better picture to look at it overall in the operating fund rate, total levy. So if there's more questions about that, I can answer them when we get to the levy portion.
And the final thing on the treasurer's report, the board knows we always include the 5-year financial forecast. And I think people have been so astute in their public comments that, there are real voters, real taxpayers right now. One of the things you have to financially do also in your stewardship is to think about future voters, future taxpayers as well. And this is just all of our funds. You can kind of see in fiscal year 2023, 2024, 2025, as things, expenditures and revenues, we expect those to even out. So the repercussions of lowering revenues, they cast out. They move outward. And if those two bars are uneven between revenues and expenditures, it's just one way to look at the revenue loss that one person read from, that Mrs. Corey mentioned. Again, this is a similar illustration of working cash. This is an illustration simply of the education fund, where we spend the most amount of money. You can see expenditures across leading out, and it's been suggested many times of lowering costs. You can actually see that in the green bar by hiring a staff that's qualified but less expensive, less experienced, and growing those folks and bringing them in so that they're not as costly as those who are retiring. So you can see how those expenditures are flattening out and where the revenues kind of follow them. So it's also thinking down the line, and this 5-year forecast helps you do that. But you can also see how tightening up, there are some predictions of how you can see those fund balances spend themselves down. So all that is, what you request every month, and just, advertising in some way where people can find all of that information right here in the treasurer's report. You've got to vote on that.
Thank you, Thank you, Ms. Burke. All right, it's already been motion and second, just need a roll call to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Ives,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Navara,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Moving on to superintendent report.
All right, I am going to, a couple of things. One, thank you for your work at III, and, appreciate you as board members. Also, I'd agree with Mrs. Kishline, thankful really for everybody in this room, thankful that people are interested in school finance. Thankful for you as school board members, and just thankful for public education, really, to be honest with you. But thankful for our staff, custodians, maintenance, for our students. This fall has been a very different fall, and it's been a welcome fall, for sure, and I think just so many people feel that. I'd encourage, just in the interest of time, we have work to do and want to get to the tax levy portions because there's rich information there too. Board members, most of you, I've sent this link to you before, and I really recommend, if you're a member of the public, to take a look at it. It's students documenting the work of students. It suggests two things, really amazing things going on in something called Club Create and competition in VEX Robotics. I would suggest, it's the type of material that really proposes a question for you. Do you believe that students are a test score? Or do you believe students are more? I think you got to answer that question. I would suggest that this suggests that students are more than a test score. And it also suggests we just have a growing group of students who are just media production program. It's something that students are working on quite a bit, and really amazing. Building evacuation reunification plan, we're continuing to work. We have a plan that we've developed. If we ever have a catastrophic event, you hope that never visits us. Workplace violence, explosion, gas leak, these are the things we don't like to think too much about, but have to. Even in the case of weather, I've been in an active tornado in a school building. You might have to evacuate the building. Bomb threat. Really educating the staff and the community about this proposed plan that was developed with the police. Really just involves going to areas of refuge, a transport center in the A fields, and then a reunification site that would be at the Bow Dome, and what that process is. Global competency, something that we're also looking into. We're taking a look, your heavy influence on community service and possibly partnering to give students an opportunity to do community service work in the Dominican Republic. We're also looking at an educational trip, or potentially that students could have the opportunity to participate in, celebrating the 80th anniversary of D-Day in France, if students would like to take that kind of trip. We're continuing the conversation about Central. We have an advisory committee that's been advising us about Central. We continue to talk to our architects, to performance contractors, Amoresco, about what is the future of that building and the potential of investing in that building for a more significant renovation of it that would bring it up to speed. And then I just want to draw board members' attention to a different way that we've packaged the board goals, the 6 board goals. and there's document attached. And we put it in a different, and we're not gonna go through each one of these because you'll have various people who will present on this. But we put it in a slightly different form than our dashboard, where what you'll see is pursuing each goal, one, to make sure that student voice is included. We're looking at student belonging, how we're increasing student belonging. What kind of beliefs drive our decisions in these goals areas? How do we broadcast the work that we're doing? And then also what kind of barriers exist that might get in the way of excelling in those areas. So this is really for your reference, and if you could hang on to this. You'll have different administrators presenting over the next few months, but we won't be doing that tonight. So that is my superintendent report.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you. To our information reports.
I'm stripped on my shoes. Good evening. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to let us give you an update about what's happening with our curriculum and instruction team and student services. We are continuing our work on our MTSS system. We're working on taking action. There was a team of teachers, counselors, and building administrators that attended a Solution Tree Conference in Louisville. This group then, we were able to join together with a group that previously went on a Solution Tree Conference, and we worked with that group to develop our plans for next steps. So we're all using the Solution Tree book, Taking Action. We're discussing the work of the PLC teams and how the work of our guidance teams are there to ensure that Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions are being implemented for students identified as needing those level of services. It's pretty exciting work, and I'm happy to be with a group of professionals that are really digging in and ensuring that students have access to the supports that they need. The other area that I wanted to give you an update on was our English Language Learner Task Force. We had some of our task force members visit Barrington High School in October to tour their program and to look at the best practices in action. They are evaluating what they learned, and we're looking at how we can incorporate some of those practices into our programming as well. We recently held the EL Language Learner Parent Meeting that is required for funding. And we had our largest group of parent attendance. We're pretty excited about it. Dr. Webb-Ray, Mrs. Barnacle, and Ms. Garibay, our new psychologist, gathered a group of over 20 parents to discuss programs and services for students and how what we're doing can help their students gain proficiency in language. We did share a thought exchange survey, and we asked our families and our students who are in these programs to answer some survey questions, and then we'll be digging through that data as we get more participants to respond.
The great thing about the thought exchange survey is parents and students can choose which language they want to take it in, and they can interact within that language of comfort with them, with the thoughts and ideas of everybody else who participates. Last week, Ms. Johnson and Dr. Shaw, Mr. Travis, we all spent a lot of time together because we had a curriculum committee meeting on Monday, followed by III, and here we are again tonight. At request as a follow-up from our October meeting, there was a request about a report to see how are our students growing from the PSAT 8, we just had 8th graders take it, to their junior year. And so we dove deep into the report, but really, in short, something that we gleaned from looking at this is that we saw that our students who come in with not meeting either benchmark in math or reading grow at the same rate as our students who come in meeting at least one benchmark. And so an analogy we talked about is they're growing at the same rate, but you have some students who've come in a little bit further ahead. So we talked about what's important, the growth or the acceleration of the students who were struggling when they came in with meeting these standards. And then we followed up with a variety of reports and conversations about the supports we give students. But I would love for Dr. Shaw or Mr. Travis to talk about things from the meeting that maybe struck them as interesting.
I just really appreciate the fact that we're having deep conversations about curriculum. I hear a lot of people say, you know, what are we doing about it? And this is exactly what we're doing. We have a curriculum committee that meets quarterly, and they are public meetings, so anybody can attend and see what we're talking about when we're talking about curriculum and achievement when it comes to Lockport Township High School, and the things that we're putting in place in order to make sure our students are achieving in the future. So I just want to put a plug out there for that meeting, just because it is valuable information. There is research being put into, you know, how are our students achieving and what do we need to do to bring them to the level that obviously our community members want. The thing that I appreciated most is when we talked about students, we are challenging our students, and we are placing them in courses that might be a little bit above, you know, any other school district might place them in a course that may not be, or may be at the level that they're at, but we're challenging them. We're trying to get them in advanced courses, and we're trying to bring them up to a level where they can score higher and have more achievement on those exams so that they can do what they want with their futures. And that's what I took from our meeting.
And I do share the same thought process, but I did like when you brought up about the benchmark, how the students are growing, and they're growing at the same rate. And I asked a question to clarify that, and you can do that if you don't mind, about, because I did ask a question, if they're growing at the same rate, are they getting the same like grades or getting to that final where they need to be the same? And if you want to share that.
We just talked about, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, Mr. Travis.
It's the race we started.
Yeah, yeah, so we used an analogy of if students, if we said the destination is Central Campus, am I doing this correctly? And the students who come in are represented by, they've traveled the distance from Walmart to East already, right? They've met one of the benchmarks. And the kids who haven't met the benchmarks are still at Walmart, right? And they travel at the same pace. This Walmart group is not totally getting to Central in the same time it takes. And that's why we discussed a variety. Dr. Shaw just talked about one of the supports we're doing, where we're making sure we're placing students in grade level coursework and or challenging them to take maybe an AP or honors class in one area, and trying to provide supports through Compass and other mechanisms like Chemistry Plus or Physics Plus, to make sure they're on grade level. Did I get it right?
You got it.
Okay.
And just one point of clarification for the folks at home, for the board, for folks in the room. We use this acronym. We're so familiar with it as educators, PSAT, SAT. Not everyone might know what that means. The SAT is the most rigorous college entrance exam in the country. Only 2 states in the union use a college entrance exam as their state accountability test. Other states are often referenced. Those are state design, State Board of Education design. But I think it's important in the state of Illinois that it is the most difficult college entrance exam in the country. We had fun last month trying to correctly answer some of the questions on last year's SAT, and I think that's a challenge to anyone. Those are some of the most difficult questions, would challenge really every adult in this room, really to be honest. So sometimes comparisons to other states are not comparing. We don't have a national high school proficiency test. There was an attempt to do that a few years ago with something called PARC, and that really fell apart. We don't have that, so when we make comparisons, we're not all comparing the same thing. In this case, it's the Scholastic Aptitude Test used by colleges to determine college entrance. Very, very challenging. So when you hear PSAT and SAT, it's that suite of tests.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to say congratulations again. I know Corey Duzan left, but just to let you guys know how phenomenal he and his colleagues really are. Corey brought Project Lead the Way to our building, and he and his colleagues, the opportunities in the programs that they're exposing our kids to really is phenomenal. And they've taken it to the next level with some of these new competitions at the state level and the national level. And we're very excited. Most of the kids, out of the 8 that were here tonight, 6 of them are underclassmen. So we're really excited about the interest and looking forward to what they can do in the future. As far as activities, all of you know that we had a great fall, and we're looking forward to the holiday concerts that are coming up. And then our fall sports, we just wrapped that up. We just had our awards night last Wednesday, and winter sports are underway. A lot of our teams have had several competitions. We did just hear that our basketball team is up by 12 at half at the WJOL tournament, so we're excited about that. Yes, and the other thing that was mentioned is our Share Fest. Angela Adolph mentioned that, and that's something that we're very proud of. Share Fest is an opportunity for families in need in our community to come in and be able to get household items, clothing, and our student clubs actually have really amped it up and have done a toy drive. So it's something that we're really proud of. It was a great event last year, and our staff that were there that worked it really saw the benefits of it. And our staff, including Angela Adolph, Trish Sermon, my assistant principal, really have put in a ton of effort to make sure that our families that come in have, an overabundance of things that they get to walk out of here with. So we're very excited about that as well. So that will be the December 11th.
I just want to add one other big event that we have December 2nd, our 8th annual Veterans Night that we're very proud of. Mike Zaworski, social studies teacher, does an awesome job with that. It's always awesome to see our veterans take the court. It's also equally as awesome to see our student participation in the cheering section and on the court, holding the flag. It's something that we look forward to. First home boys basketball game, December 2nd, our 8th annual Veterans Night. As for the student behavior report, you can see the incidents overall in summary there. Thanks to Mr. Bartley for the report. Minor incidents continue to lead the overall count total for the past month with no ID, tardy to school, tardy to class. Real proud of the work of all of our staff, but of our student support teams, our deans and our guidance office staff who work with our students when we have those major event infractions and working with the students and their families, not only to get through the consequence that they must serve, but also then formulating a plan for them to get back on track when they come back into school academically. So are there any questions from the board regarding any of the highlights that Principal Green provided or the student behavior report?
Very detailed.
Nothing
Thank you.
today. Thank you.
It's purely an informational report. I had mentioned opportunities for students to travel globally. These are opportunities for students to travel locally, but they are overnight field trips, just to make the board aware of Milwaukee School of Engineering and wrestling Dan Gable Donnybrook tournament in Corvallis, Iowa, the home of what seems to be the toughest wrestling in the country. So just want to make you aware that students will be on the road traveling. We always, especially in winter months, pay attention to safety conditions when they're out there. Bill Thompson, as you know, Bill Thompson's at all of our meetings. Rather lengthy report on maintenance. Just really two things I want to highlight for brevity. One thing we will be doing is we'll be amending and bringing to you for approval just a small change to our Quest food service contract so that they are not required by the state of Illinois to charge students sales tax. Quest is a third-party contractor with us. We can make a slight change to their contract so they are not required to pass sales tax on the students. The board would agree. We don't want, for your lunch, sales tax to be included. So we'll factor that out. I also would just draw your attention to the long list. When folks think about, Central, why Central, you're seeing a long list of the different types of things that we are working on to keep up with primarily water issues at Central. It's our biggest enemy in a legacy building. This is part of why we're having a conversation about renovation. Renovation is always about a quarter of the cost of new construction. New construction, to give you an example of a new school building, would run about $152 to about $180 million, and that's a modest size building, which would translated would be about a $350 to $400 tax increase. It's the most expensive option in a school district is new construction. So we're taking a very careful look at could we offer our district something more modest at a quarter of the cost through a renovation and renewal of Central. so that we're not constantly fighting small projects or even putting ourselves in a situation where you have some kind of mechanical failure. So looking at that as more of an option than the most costly option of a brand-new school building, which, as many people have mentioned right now, very challenging in this environment if you had a new school building and asking voters for that type of increase. Any questions for Bill or myself on the maintenance report?
No?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
He does a great job.
He does. Moving on then to our consent agenda items. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 2 to number 8?
So moved.
Second.
All right, been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any discussions or questions on this, on any of these? All right, roll call.
Travis,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the tentative levy for the tax year 2022?
So moved.
Yeah, I have a second. Do I have a second? On second by Mr. Travis. All right. Okay, Ms. Stephanie Croy?
And before Mrs. Croy presents this, I just want to mention just for everybody, this is a tentative tax levy. The purpose of this, there's a statutory purpose, but also the purpose is exactly this, is to have a tentative vote, and then by law, we have to have a final vote in December. So that word is a very important word, because this is not the tax levy. This is the tentative tax levy. It's a projection for everybody to see, so we can exactly have this kind of conversation this evening, a month in advance of the actual tax levy being approved in December, as is required by Illinois State School Code. So I want to turn it over to you, Mrs. Croy, kind of,
And it
yeah.
can always go up or down depending on what happens within the next month, correct?
It can. I mean, it's you know, with, you know, you'll hear the presentation, what's driving that, right? And just as a reminder, I know Mrs. Croy is going to say this, I'm sorry to steal your thunder, but what the board has to consider is what drives this is the budget that you approved in September. So you've approved that budget for the next fiscal year. It straddles 2 calendar years, and Mrs. Croy mentioned that. That's important. So the levy is to meet that budget. And as you know, not only do you have 6 to 12 months cash on hand as a board goal, but a directive that your budget is always balanced. So that there's no deficit spending that's inherited to future taxpayers or deferred to some other time. So the budget is the driver behind the levy, and that's already been approved in September. Mrs. Croy? Yes.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but number 2, the next item.
The item or just on this?
Well, number 1 and number 2 sort of are together, aren't they?
Yeah, do you want to have, Mrs. Croy usually walks through those, just, you know, looking at some of the equalized assessed valuation and the Will County assessor's information. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, that one was talking about, I think, isn't that the one shifting money? I want to understand that first.
The second approval is the fund transfer.
Okay.
Approval, yeah. The agenda, that would be the approval of the fund transfers so that, you know, we can use existing funds rather than rolling that about $5 million into the levy. We can use existing funds. You know, I always say air quotes, we never call it savings because that's not what you call it in school finance. You call it fund balance into our buildings. So that would be agenda item number 2. This is agenda item number 1. So, Ms. Croy.
Thank you, Dr. McBride. The steps for the levy are identified in the board memo, so I'm not going to read those. But if you have any questions on the process of what has determined the levy, I'd be happy to answer those. You know, there are a bunch of pieces that determine what the final tax extension is, but the levy itself, in a big picture, is what is an ask, right? It's a what the district needs to meet the expenditure needs of the district. The other point to Dr. McBride made about the levy in total, The levy in total is, like I talked about, the property tax extension and limitation law, and this is to Mr. Navarro's point as well. The property tax extension limitation law limits the district to either CPI or 5%. There's nothing that we can, that is what the district can get, okay? We are limited to those increases compared to the prior year's tax extension. So the numbers that are listed in here, in the resolution that the board is going to potentially approve today for the tentative levy, 56,939,316 is last year's extension. So that's the extended taxes that the district received last spring and this fall from the
It had been mentioned
2021.
by someone earlier as somehow a savings. That's actually the tax extension, not a kind of savings that we have.
So then what happens is the district will be limited to 5% of that. Even if we ask for 6, we're gonna get 5. And we're going to get the 5% and then the new property piece. So the new property piece is the piece that's outside of the property tax extension and limitation law, and that is primarily all the new businesses, right? Who are not currently taxed. This will be the first time it's called new property because it's really just it's new to the tax roll. That's why it's called that by the assessor's office. So those properties are being taxed for the first time, so they're not subject to that tax cap. That tax cap is meant to protect the existing homeowners from anything beyond, a 5% increase. So,
So you're saying people will not see a 6% increase?
I can't promise what they'll actually see because there's factors beyond what we ask for. What I'm saying is we can't.
So you're saying from us?
From
we
us,
will not
correct.
see a 6%
We cannot ask for more than 5, because that's what it'll limit to for an individual. So our rate cannot go up more than 5.
So if the
right?
assessor decides to assess more in taxes, it would not come from the school district?
The assessor can change the valuation. And when they change your the value of your home, your value could go up more, which means you pay more. So the way that the tax bill is calculated, it has a bunch of different pieces. It has all the different asks from all the municipalities and all of the taxing bodies, right? Your tax bill's got, 6, 7, 8, 10 different bodies asking for money. And the levy is what we ask for. That levy is limited by the property tax extension limitation law. So that's why if you look at what we got last year, we were limited to the CPI, which was lower for the 2021 levy than it is now. Right.
Can you refresh my memory what the CPI for last year is compared to this year?
For last year's tax levy, it's in here. It was 2 point.
Someone had mentioned, I can't remember when the comments someone had mentioned, looking for previous levies. Just to draw everybody's attention, there's a historic and accessible to the public on this agenda item, just to get a sense. One thing with the property tax extension limitation law, we are the only public body that has such an inflationary reduction law that was enacted in 1993. A number of people referenced the early 90s were a period of recession. And so the state legislature took action, as Mrs. Croy said, to protect existing home and property owners. So exactly for the case that we're in now, where you might have inflationary pressures, but there's a 5% limiter on school districts. Oftentimes when we hear about other taxing bodies, they are in the context where they don't face a property tax extension limitation law like we do. Fire districts, townships, public libraries don't face that same kind of limitation as schools do. And I think it's important to remember that there's a governor kind of on our, what our levy can be.
It's 2.7 was the, so, and it's going to be, it's 5% now, and it's gonna end up being, we're gonna be limited to the 5% next time too, because CPI was 7, and we're limited to 5. And we're looking right now, what's coming up for this December, where CPI ends this December will be for next year's levy. And that is kind of along the same lines. We're expecting it to still be over 5.
Right, so for the next subsequent years, even though the CPI is very high, that will drive purchase services, that'll drive supplies.
The cost that we can't control.
The cost we can't control, because we've already agreed with our union, 75% of our costs are fixed and below the rate, well below the rate of inflation. We've come to an agreement that placed that well below the rate of inflation. Those costs will increase regardless of how the board acts. And we're limited in terms of our reach. So we can't meet that consumer price index. So to the point that's been made earlier, there does have to be, built into this is a tightening up. Built into this is your directive is a balanced budget. To make that balanced budget, we have to be spending over the next year in a manner that lands at a balanced budget. But just to be clear, as Mrs. Croy, the tax extension has been sort of presented as some kind of tax surplus. The tax extension isn't something that we have in the bank at our fingertips. And these, tax extensions that you see historically are never sort of saved or stored in that way. Although you have tax revenue that's coming in over a period of time.
So what this schedule shows here is the history of the levy, which is what the board asks for in December, and then the extension, what was actually extended by the county, and then the new property changes and the EAV changes. So you'll see, over the last 10 years, we've been limited to CPI. You can see that they're all 2.8, 3.5, we've been limited to those amounts. Our expenditures may not have been those amounts, so we've already had to manage other resources, because if we had 5% salary increases, but we only had a 2.8% levy increase, we had to come up with the funds somewhere else, so.
And I think an important thing to mention is, if we did a little bit of just, kind of history, biographical history of folks in here, a person who built a brand new house, maybe over in Silo Bend, is not going to pay the same rate as Ann Keneva, who's in a very existing home. The Menards over in Homer Glen isn't going to pay near what our biggest taxpayer, Citgo Refinery, pays, because they put in a lot of new facilities. And they'll have to have that new property, that's a tax term, they won't pay the same. So this is not a flat tax. It isn't the same rate for everyone. It depends on the value of your home, what the Will County tax assessor assesses your home at. And as you can see, we had $2.8 billion in property. Now we have about roughly $3.1 billion. You can see the value that increased. And we all just have to be honest with ourselves. When one lives in an area where there are strong police, strong fire, strong schools, our home values, our property values, our business values do increase. That's a benefit directly to us. And you can kind of see that as the EAV in this area has gone up, over time.
Because, Stephanie, because what Dr. McBride says in Veronica's question as well, when you look at the levy, the 6.04 on the total the total property valuation that's going to come up here. It's hard to say, you're not going to say, okay, you have a 6%, you have a 6%, it really depends on lots of factors, on what your individual tax will be, whether it's commercial or residential.
Right.
And, we know Citgo is our biggest taxpayer, so, we have that as well. So it's a very hard question to answer. Say, well, it's going 6%, doesn't mean your taxes are going up 6%.
It's a complicated formula.
It is.
Which is what makes it complicated. It's complicated to compute what each taxpayer's tax bill would be because of all the different taxing bodies. If you live in Homer Glen versus City of Lockport, City of Crest Hill, whether you go to District 92, whether you go to Homer 33C, all those different taxing bodies have different rates. On top of that, each home has a different value. And then all those rates are applied to different values, so it's just a complicated formula.
They do it on purpose.
just to make good discussions like this.
And one of the questions that I think that is always before the board is, you know, in the past, because of the property tax extension limitation and, you know, keying us to the CPI, I'm sorry, that is so horrible. You can see that the levy has followed the CPI for many years. Now that CPI is much higher than in the past, we are limited. One can make the argument, we're on the same fixed incomes that a lot of people have been talking in this room. You can. I mean, as a district. So we have no increases in things that we can control over 5%, although we know, as people have mentioned, we've seen inflationary costs much higher than that. So part of the levy is a solvency issue, is to make sure that by the following fiscal year, that we're balanced every year. And a consideration before the board is, once a difference between expenditures and revenues is opened up, it only continues to open up over time. It will eventually accrue into a deficit that someone will have to pay at some time. That's always the tough decision before the board, is to respond to economic conditions today, or to have a steady approach over time that's consistent. School finance is a very consistent creature. And it's consistent, and the reason why it's consistent, and the reason why it benefits our community, that we're not going to referendum all the time for an ed fund increase, for deferred maintenance. We're taking care of that in-house and within the means that we have. That's really the approach.
Yeah, the other point to Dr. McBride's comment about that it's very kind of steady is, even in periods of high inflation and periods of low inflation, we keep the expenditures fairly steady as well, right? We don't have the opportunity like a business to, things are really bad, we got to cut a bunch of people. If we did that, we would have students we can't educate. Like in a high school district, it's more complicated than an elementary district from the perspective of staffing, right? You can't just put more kids in a classroom because all of the different options that the students take. We'd be cutting whole programs potentially. So.
And it just, coming out of the sort of triple pandemic we've been in the past 2 years, I think the board would have to ask, is this the time to cut athletics? Is this the time to cut extracurriculars? Is this the time to increase class sizes? All those things can create and generate savings, but is this the time? Is this the time not to put a new roof on, we'll vote on that in a minute, not to put a new roof on East Campus, although it's in dire need, and what we know is if we put another year into it, it'll only be more costly for the community to do that. Is this the time not to defer maintenance on an auditorium that is a school asset and a community asset, but has not had an improvement in lighting or sound in 25 years? We're not asking in this levy for those funds to be covered by this levy. It's not rolled into that, because we've been astute in planning for that and seeing those needs far in advance, just like in the maintenance report, all the needs that we see at Central.
Any other questions by the board on this levy? And remember, this is the tentative, and what'll happen with the process is then at the December board meeting, there'll be a hearing, and then the board will be asked to approve a levy.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Steph.
I'll just stay here because the next item's mine too.
All right. It's
The
been
next
already
item, Joyce,
motion
you
and
can just
second.
stay there.
Roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Navarra,
Can I just say something real quick? I just wanted to remind that we are technically a nonprofit, and I think like some people just don't consider that nonprofits should be treated differently than businesses, because the whole the absolute fact of a nonprofit is to provide quality rather than make money. At least that's what I've been told. However, even like people who don't believe that, or people who do believe that you should not be limiting on the, like, you know, as a school, we're a nonprofit, they still believe that money is important. Like, and my family's also been struggling too, and they're very reflective in their attitude towards me about how much they're struggling. And I just don't feel right about this. Like, even though, yes, it makes sense that we are increasing price, I think that I'm more willing to say that we should probably be looking into treating this as if this is an emergency, because at least like what some people have been telling me, this is all temporary. So, you know, since this only happens once every like 46-ish years, maybe we should at least consider deferring some of these costs to our savings, because we don't really need to wait until the roof, how old is our roof, like 14 years? We don't need to wait for our roof to collapse or for the 75-year-old boiler to explode to consider that an emergency. We can consider factors of how our economy is functioning as like maybe this does constitute an emergency, while still like, you know, keeping up with what we do. So just considering my family and some of my friends who I also know are struggling, I have to say no to this.
Travis,
Yes.
Lewandowski.
No.
Ives. Lopez Caniva.
Yes.
She's out too. Remember the yes, you're out. Remember.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution for transfers between the transportation and education and operation and maintenance fund?
Can you repeat the vote? We couldn't hear you.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any questions or discussions to that motion? No, then roll call.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes.
What was the tax levy vote? We couldn't hear everybody.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the low?
Repeat the vote, please, so we can hear it.
Hey, excuse me. On behalf of the board, you couldn't hear it because you were clapping.
I wasn't clapping,
So we will,
sir.
give it a
I
sec.
was not clapping. I would like to know who voted
Just give us a
yes.
second and, give us a second and we'll repeat it. But also I think listening really helps. And I
Yeah,
think you
well,
would
it's really
hear.
hard to hear you without microphones, sir.
Well, we're trying to cut every cost we can. And you want to repeat the vote?
No, have Kathy do it.
Yeah, Kathy, you can just repeat the vote on the levy.
On the levy,
On the levy, repeat that.
5 yeas and 2
No,
nays.
tell them, they want to
No,
know.
roll
Want to
call.
know the roll call?
Oh,
Just go through the roll call.
Johnson,
No,
Yes.
no, just,
Who, how did each member
how did
vote?
each board
yes,
member vote?
Johnson is a yay.
Okay.
Navarro is a no. Shaw is a yay. Travis is a yay. Lewandowski is a no. Ives is a yay, and Lopez Caniva is a yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Do I have a motion to approve the low bid to RB Crawford Company for the roof replacement at East Campus? I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion, but then I have a question.
Sure. All right, are there discussions or questions on it?
Have we used this, is Bill here?
Yeah, Bill's right there.
Bill, have we used them before, this contractor?
No, not here.
Okay, but you've got some good recommendations?
Yeah, they've worked a lot with DLA.
Oh, they have?
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Bill.
Roll call.
Shaw? Yes. Lewandowski?
Yes.
Navarro?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Ives?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the new course proposals and course revisions for the 2023-2024 school year?
Can we just take a pause for a couple of seconds here?
Yeah, and I don't know if board members have any questions about these new courses. You know, Dr. Christoperos here to answer some questions.
You already have a motion to second, I apologize.
No, no,
I don't think we have a motion.
not yet, we couldn't.
Okay, I move to approve the course proposals and revisions for the 23-24 school year.
I'll second it.
All right. Is there any questions?
Hold on, sorry, I
Sure.
wasn't there. I apologize. Oh, so yes, the one thing I wanted to point out, again, when we were talking about rigor in the mathematics portion, we are just offering more rigor by providing an AP pre-calc class to our students in this. It's the only comment I wanted to make.
Thank you, yes. All right, okay. Let's see.
Let's vote.
I know, that's right. Roll call.
Navarro,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Johnson. Shaw,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the board's consideration of the evidence and testimony of the expulsion hearing held on November 11, 2022? The Board of Education find that student number 205-03-2068 has committed an act of gross misconduct as charged by the district's administration, in that student number 205-03-2068 came to the school under the influence of drugs on October 21, 2022, in violation of the Student Behavior Code, pages 12 and 13 in the Porter Planner. I move that the Board of Education expel student number 205-03-2068 from Lockport Township High School District 205 for 2 years.
I'll second that.
Are there any questions to this? Roll call.
Travis,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yeah.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, there's no policy updates. for this.
There will be next month.
Next
There
month,
will be.
enjoy that.
And just your final, just lots of events that are coming up that are great opportunities for community engagement. Mr. Ives, maybe next month, we'll talk about the session that we went to on community engagement. You can see them Veterans Night, December 2nd, Cookies and Cocoa with Santa Claus, December 4th. Board self-evaluation meeting, I think that'll be, awfully important. That's a special session. We'll serve dinner at 5:30 PM. And then begin, that'll be closed session with Lori Grant from IASB at 6 PM. Share Fest, December 11th. We have a board meeting, December 19th. Share Fest is, I think, Ms. Adolph, it is basically something we do with Will County to try to provide citizens with coats, clothes, food, toys. Relatively big event. Then you can see the final day before school when we get back on Institute Day, and classes back in on Tuesday, January 10th.
Yeah, veterans.
Oh, I'll have to let you know the holiday concerts too. Thank you, my apologies. Look in your board update for holiday concerts for sure.
When did the trees go out?
The trees out here?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to look, that competition is afoot. Board, yeah. You can vote on many things, but you cannot vote on,
Can't vote on which tree we like.
on which tree you like.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
And before I second that motion, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, have a great, safe holiday, everyone.
Now I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
All right. Okay, if you-